Welcome to Turn the Page, the official podcast of the Syosset Public Library.
Hi, this is Jessica with Syosset Library's Turn the Page podcast, and my librarian co-host today is
Evelyn, Reader Services Librarian.
And our guest today is
Beth Harbison.
Welcome, Beth. We are super excited to have you here, especially because your book that we're going to be talking about today, and I know that you've got some experience with books involving food, but this is called the Cookbook Club.
Yes.
And food is a huge comfort during COVID times, and cooking has become a comfort, and book clubs have expanded to include Zoom, and you just kind of put everything together in a nice little escapist package for us.
As it happens. It wasn't on purpose. Of course, I started this a long time before the pandemic began. Well, I say that, but my life has always been complementary to a pandemic in that I don't go out much. So this already fit in with my life. But now that people are stuck at home.
Yeah, it's funny because some of the programming we're doing here at the library for at least like under the trending programs that we do for millennials, Gen X, Gen Y, like our taglines have been like since, COVID, which has changed us a lot because we do it on Zoom, is basically just all this stuff about you didn't really want to leave your house anyway, and it's cold, leave your pajama pants on. So
right.
It's good to hear that people had those thoughts before they had no choice.
Good. I don't know. It's like, in a way, I have an excuse now, but of course, I hope to God they find a cure and life.
Oh, no, me too. So I could, stay in my pajama pants anyway, but it's solely my choice, and I have to explain to people, like, why I can't go out. It's not just like, like COVID, we're not going anywhere. It's like, oh, no, I think I have to, I don't know, like, listen to water boil or something and cook something. But let's talk about your book. I loved it. It was so good. Evelyn, do you want to say anything before?
Sure. No, I'm really enjoying it. I've been overwhelmed with reading a book, so I'm halfway done. I will finish it tonight. I was too tired last night. I'm sorry. I fell asleep. I was planning on finishing it last night, but sometimes sleep just overtakes you and you just have no choice. But I'm really enjoying it. I think the characters are great. Why don't you give our audience a little synopsis of what the book's about?
Well, the book follows several women, but it begins with a woman who gets sort of ambushed by a divorce from a selfish man. It's one of those things where it's for the best. We've all been in relationships like this, where it's like, oh, but I'll do it after the holidays, or, So it's she knows it's for the best, but it still is upending her life. So she's kind of in a funk and sees on Instagram somebody has a cookbook club nearby and is, welcoming new menus. Or not, well, yes, menus, but members as well.
Right.
So the idea is that they get together, say once a month or so, and make dishes from that cookbook, which is something I have not done with a group, but I would really like to.
You should start that out there now.
Well, except for the pandemic. I get it. I got rolling on this. Nobody could go anywhere. But yeah, I would love to do that out here.
It would be interesting, like if people cooked a recipe in their own homes, but everyone's would be a little different because when people cook, they put different things into it.
Oh yeah. But that's a good idea that I didn't even think of.
But anyway, I thought that the whole breakup scene with her husband, and as you said, like that's not really spoiling anything.
No, because it's right at the beginning.
Right at the beginning was so, like, in a way, like it was surprising, but also almost humorous, and like not like humorous in the way that she was being left, but what a jerk, like, and she's saying to herself, like, oh, this is always the moment where you think that it's going to happen, and he's going to say this isn't working out. And like, I feel like everybody has like those moments in their life when they're like, okay, what's going to happen in our relationship, and it's never really what you're thinking. But in her case it was, and that kind of took me for surprise too. I wasn't expecting him to go full like, yeah, no, this is gonna end. But man, he was terrible. Yeah.
Yeah, unfortunately, I've known people who've been through that exact kind of thing. It's not the cartoon you'd like to think it is.
Yeah.
Did you read Evie Drake Starts Over? Did you read that one?
I haven't read that one.
She was planning on leaving him. Her bags were packed. She's on her way out the door. She's leaving him. She gets a call that he was in an accident and he's in the hospital. So that's another scenario of, the woman's leaving the man. It's bad.
Oh, that's a good one.
Yeah, read that. It's a really good one also.
Yeah, that sounds good.
Yeah, but your book got a very nice review. I believe it was published weekly.
Yeah.
It says Harbison's pleasant tale shines a light on her character's successes and failures. Despite a few cliches, this is a mostly delicious story. Delicious. Perfect word for a book about Cookbook Club.
I set up for the puns to just flow.
Yeah, it was perfect. And I love, like, you met all the recipes. There's great recipes in the back of the book.
Mm-hmm.
You all have to try it. I'm going to try that spinach artichoke dip because I love that.
Yeah, well, spinach artichoke dip in general is delicious. And have you cooked all the recipes in your? Yeah, definitely.
I had to pare down favorites. I've always cooked for myself. I'm not the mom who always made big balanced dinners. I'm the person who gets a craving and is making French onion soup at 11:30 p.m. and just thinking, okay, I'm going to make this and I'm going to sit down and watch Grace and Frankie and, marathon it for 2 hours. So for that reason, I think most of my recipes, they're usually going to find they're going to be comfort food. Let's say that. So the spinach and artichoke dip, I always make sure I have jars of artichoke hearts and enough mayonnaise in the pantry.
Yeah, it looks
that
delicious.
Is one of my favorites.
Well, you've written 4 cookbooks, I believe. Is that true?
Is it 4? I think it's 4. Yeah, I did. They were mostly bread, and then one was romantic meals for 2. Not because I'm so good at creating a romantic atmosphere for 2, so much as I couldn't do a compendium. I don't have a lamb recipe. I don't have a whole lot of trout recipes. So it was just another way to sort of do my favorites and try and make them make sense.
I think one of the things about the book, when I was saying that it was funny, I didn't necessarily mean just the situation in general, just like how it played out. Because you're talking about cooking for 2 and romantic dinner. And, Margot, she loved cooking so much. And that was established at the beginning of the book, how much cooking meant to her. And, she seemed kind of adrift in her relationship and what she wanted to do, but cooking was just sort of central to her and her husband, who comes in and just kind of gives her this news very blasé. Oh, I'm leaving you and I'm just going to go someplace else. And, it's for the best, sitting down and eating her food, and how much that angered her to see him enjoying the food she made after he was just like, yeah, it's fine, I'm leaving. That, to me, it was, it was tragic, and like almost like that, like life, dealing you humor at the same time thing, like looking back on it, like how dare he eat this food that I prepared, as he just basically just told me that he's leaving me.
Right. Even while it was kind of boring, it wasn't her favorite stuff anyway, it wouldn't have been her choice. And I had an actual relationship like that where I don't like a man who, maybe I'm old fashioned, but I don't like a man who counts every calorie and whines about fat.
He was very controlling about that. And like her food could have been even better if she didn't put that, much consideration into it.
Exactly. But I was in that situation where I was like, and of course I wanted to be the heroine, I was like, all right, I can take your 500 calories and make something delicious. But, and I did, but it wasn't as good as it could have been.
Right.
A little
You
butter
need that.
makes everything better.
You need that butter and mayonnaise and
Absolutely.
olive oil and all those other good things
Oh
that
yeah.
The
those
stuff
of us
of life.
watch our weight have to do without.
What about, so then there's also Trista and there's Asia. There, I would say, like, as far as like the central female
Yes.
Right.
like goes.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Trista is the one who begins the Cookbook Club.
Yes.
And I would say actually all three of them are at some sort of crossroads.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So Trista used to be a lawyer.
Yes.
Were you a lawyer?
It was not a lawyer.
So many of the authors we have spoken to have been lawyers in their previous life before they became writers.
I'm constantly surprised by it. Didn't I just read the
Mhm.
other day that even Kristen Hanna was a lawyer?
Yes, she was.
Oh yeah, that's true.
I mean, I know Emily Giffen was, but I didn't know Kristen was.
Yeah. So many of the
but-
authors we've spoken to. It's amazing.
Yeah. No, so I was nothing like a lawyer, but I've had, boring jobs. And I based the restaurant on a restaurant that my daughter and my boyfriend actually were working at the time, were working in together. They were rehabbing it. And it was doomed to fail, this restaurant. So it was kind of like, do whatever you want. She did a drinks program for it. He redid the menu for the, in the kitchen. And so it was really the premise, as far as Trista is trying to come up with an inspiring reason for people to go there, was 100% based on truth. And it had been fun to watch the Yelp reviews go up in real life.
Oh, that's so nice. And was it successful?
It was too late. They were too in debt. It was in Bethesda, Maryland, which is just a stone's throw from DC. And I think their rent was $22,000 a month.
Whoa.
Wow.
That's hard to even break even. My gosh.
Yeah, I mean, if you just think of, exactly. How many happy customers do you have to have before you start to break even? I don't know.
Right. And the rent is just part of it. The food and the employees and everything else. Wow.
Yeah.
Well, it gave you good material for your book, huh?
It did. It was fun, especially since he was experimenting doing the cooking at home.
Oh, wow.
So, that's nice.
I got to try everything out.
So that's good. You had 2 cooks in the house, huh?
Absolutely. Yeah. And my daughter is a great bartender. She was actually was the beverage director at the Willard Hotel in DC for a while, even though she was only 28 at the time.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so I mean, actually, and the three of us were the first ones quarantined together. Then my son came home from New York City after having the virus. But having the three of us in the house was very fattening.
I'm sure that it was delicious, and you also had the best drinks at your house.
Absolutely. There was no energy for anything but like getting another serving and another drink.
Oh, I wish I was with you.
There was this meme going around with quarantine house. Like, what quarantine house do you want to be in? And there was one with a bunch of actors, and there was one with a bunch of authors. It sounds like your quarantine house is the best.
Yeah. It was great, but my favorite meme at the time was your alcoholic. Your quarantine alcoholic name is your first name followed by your last name.
Not see that one, but that's probably pretty accurate for a lot of people. Yeah. So Trista, to her, the Cookbook Club it turned out to be much, a way she made friends and so much more came into her life, but she also was kind of using it as a pilot to make recipes for her restaurant. And then there's Asia, who comes to us as kind of, is it okay if I kind of call her a hot mess?
Yeah, I would say that's accurate.
She's like, you have Margot, who left this long relationship with her husband, and had other things pre-established, even though she's got other problems going on. And then you have Trista, who had this background in law and wants to take up the restaurant, and she has other problems. And then there's Asia, who's just seems to be like defined by whoever she's with.
Mm-hmm.
And the gentleman that she's with, as she describes him to the other 2 women, certainly does not seem as invested in her as she is in him.
Mm-hmm.
And she's about to become more attached to the situation that I think she realizes.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Well, I think I have seen that happen a lot around DC. I'm kind of excited about not being there anymore. Not because I'm dating, because I'm not, but knock wood. But it really is as shallow a town in some ways as people say. And it's really hard to be a Zen, sort of yoga instructor kind of person in such an expensive place, or maybe anywhere. I don't know. That's the only place I've really lived most of my life, there in London. So I've never lived someplace, where it's easy to float by. So I felt for Asia as I was writing her, because she was then kind of beholden. She was compromising herself the way we do sometimes in increment.
Yeah.
Because it was making life a little bit easier. I mean, livable, making the things that she valued doable, even while it was diminishing the value of the things that she did.
And she recognized that, but she also kind of understood it was what had, she was beholden to it.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I just loved all of their stories, and just sort of what brought them together.
Thank you. I really appreciate it. I did enjoy creating that, which is the power you have as an author. You get to decide who's gonna be different from each other and therefore fun to write, but also have the same elemental need that's running through.
Yeah.
So it was my aim anyway.
Well, this is not your first book. You have 13 others.
Actually, I don't know how many. I think I've written more than 40 if you count silhouette romances.
Right, and then you have the ones that you wrote as Elizabeth.
Yes, those were the
romance novels. Yeah. Mm-hmm. What made you switch from the romance novels to the more women's fiction type stories?
The joke always was I ran out of positions. But, that I don't want to be disrespectful, because the truth is I really loved writing them. And I've been thinking that lately, because politics and the atmosphere has been so tense that I really miss escaping into those little unrealistic fairy tales. You found out you're a princess and you didn't know it because you were adopted or whatever. And it was really fun writing those. But what I ran out of really was an interest in having the only tension be romantic tension, especially as life, I had children, and then my husband passed away unexpectedly and stuff. And it was so much life. There was so much real life that I kind of felt like I had, forgive me for the cliche, but I had more to say, if only to make people who felt the same thing feel more normal or okay. Elizabeth Berg always did that for me. I always appreciated that so much in her books, where she'd say something, she'd admit to a feeling that I never realized anybody else ever felt, and she articulated it so well. So I wanted to try to do that.
Is she one of your favorite authors?
I haven't read some of her newer stuff, because just because I really liked the cozy, like Pull of the Moon and Range of Motion and stuff. The homebody housewife kind of stuff I could relate to, at the time. My kids are now 30 and 20, so I can start expanding my thinking.
I also have about a 10-year age difference between myself and my brother.
Oh,
yeah.
Are you the older or younger?
I am the older.
Okay, so my daughter too.
But we're believe it or not, my brother and I have a pretty close relationship.
So do they. It's great.
Yeah, it's kind of this strange world where you literally see this person grow up, and you're an awkward teen, and suddenly you're an adult and they're an awkward teen, and then you're both adults, and you're like,
exactly.
You want to get a drink together? Shoo.
Exactly. I've watched them go through that. You said it perfectly. Yeah. Yeah.
So, Evelyn, I didn't want to step on you, and I feel like I have been a lot, so I'm going
No. I just was bringing up all the other things she's written. So I want our audience to know that there's plenty of other Beth Harbison books out there, besides for the newest one, the Cookbook Club. So have you been doing a lot of these Zoom interviews to promote the book?
No, I've been doing mostly written ones.
Oh, okay.
But I'm still getting to know Zoom. That's why I didn't know how to make you see me. But you do now. But yeah, I like it. It's just, it's really funny. I don't mean to keep going back to the pandemic, but how can we not? I also found I got so used to having a shorthand with the people I'm living with that when I try to talk to other people, I'm so awkward. I mean, it's just, I went to Target the other day all masked up and stuff, and the guy at the door said he liked my mask, and I was ready to have a 20-minute conversation with him about where I'd gotten it stuff, and I just trailed off halfway through the sentence thinking, he doesn't care. I'm bored myself,
Oh, I feel like there's going to be so much COVID-related awkwardness once we come out of this. And it's so weird. I have literal nightmares that I forget my mask, and then I'm walking around in a place where everybody else forgets their mask, and I'm like, what are we doing? Why is nobody here wearing a mask? Oh my gosh, do I have a fever? Which I guess I'm sure that this is like the new version of I forgot to wear my pants to school.
Yeah. Oh my God.
There's a test I didn't study for, and now I'm not.
That's my dream. Yeah. All the time.
So this is the new COVID version of that.
Yeah. I don't think anything's going to fully replace my constantly recurring dream of not knowing which building my math class is in.
Having
not been there.
I have that same reoccurring dream, and it's always a math class.
Yeah. Yeah. And I'm like, well, I'm here for the I'm here for the final exam, and I'm really embarrassed to go to the admissions office and pretend like I've only now just temporarily forgotten where the classroom is.
I haven't been there the entire semester, but they're giving that final exam, and I got to get there. I have the same dream all the time.
And it's math for me too. But math was a subject I had a lot of trouble in. So maybe that's where that anxiety comes from. But then I'm like wondering, and I have to like convince the teacher. I'm like, no, I've been in your class this whole time. And the teacher's like, yeah, I would know if I saw you in my class.
Yeah.
But
I never find the class.
But now it's I walk into a place and I have no mask and nobody else has masks, and what are we gonna do?
Wow, that'll probably linger a long time. Partly because it's such a concerted effort. You know, we're making such a point of doing it that we're really, really driving it home. Although I don't know, are we ever going to stop wearing masks?
Not
until it's not COVID, it's going to be something else.
Not till we have a cure, I don't think.
You know but it's interesting because it kind of makes me wonder, like I know in other countries, and this is getting way off topic, like in Asian countries, it's customary to wear a mask when you're sick.
Yeah.
And I was speaking with a coworker the other day, and we were saying, like, if you felt really sick, but you had to go out, like, would you wear a mask from this point forward? And I'm like, you know what? I think I would.
Yeah.
Because I'd rather not get anybody, like, even when, COVID is, we have a vaccine, it's under control. If I was to, for instance, have like the flu or, like be getting over the flu, because you wouldn't go out with the flu, or, like have like a really bad cold or something, I think I would, because this has kind of brought a new way of thinking. And maybe it's not a bad one to be courteous and to, if this works, find a way to lessen the risk to other people of getting sick, because nobody wants to get sick.
That's true, but I don't know how we're going to find the balance for ourselves. Like I used to joke with girlfriends at lunch. I'd take out my Bath and Body Works hand sanitizer and say, you've just touched the menu. Do you want some hand sanitizer or an immune system?
Yeah. Yeah. That's true. But
now, how do we figure that out?
That's true. And I think, like, I saw, if you're talking about COVID memes, there was another one that was going around that was like, watching your grandmother wipe down a plastic bag of takeout is going to be the new version of whatever grandchildren watched their grandparents who went through the Depression do, like, hoard pennies or something. They're going to be like, why is she wiping down every plastic bag? Oh, she lived through COVID, so that's just like what she does. But
yeah, that's probably true.
like my grandmother used to save money, which she didn't need to do, but this was just a quirk she had. She was very fortunate. But anyway, she used to like put sugar in her water so she didn't have to order a drink at a restaurant.
Oh.
Yeah.
Wow. Oh,
Yeah.
I have to use that.
Yeah, there you go.
Ooh.
Yeah.
That's really interesting.
But my parents would be like, well, when she was in the Great Depression, she lived through the Great Depression, and this is, like there were ways that people saved money, and that was one of them.
That was essentially the treat.
That was exactly. So so like if you want to write like a cookbook club back in the Great Depression,
yeah, exactly.
You can have like a woman
Lemonade.
Yes,
without lemons.
yes.
Right.
Or like you get like that lemon wedge and it's your treat and
oh my gosh. Yeah,
made lemonade with the lemon.
During the Depression starts to seem a little Marie Antoinette.
That's true. That's true. But so do you have any future cookbook club books in mind, or does the story end here?
I don't know for sure about the same characters, but I am working now on a book. Last year I did a ghostwriting project in LA for a celebrity, which I wouldn't even be able to tell accurately without it seeming like I was trying to do broad humor. But so I'm going to use that experience to have a private chef, because I used to work as a private chef, and it truly is. Boy, that's going to be hard to accurately like say what it's like without sounding like I'm making stuff up. But I remember this one woman I worked for telling me she hated me. She called me on Thanksgiving and she said, I need you to come peel 20 pounds of potatoes. I was like, I can't. And she says, well, I hate you. Okay. I feel the same. And I have managed to go several months without saying that to you. So thank you.
Wow.
But yeah, I mean, people will really treat you like crap when you're working in their houses. It's very weird to me, but it's also deeply funny. It just put me in so many positions where I'm doing the Jim Halpert look to no camera and no one.
So that's what the next book's going to be about?
Yep.
Okay,
Yep.
That sounds good.
I hope you'd be willing to come back and chat with us.
Oh my
about
gosh,
it.
absolutely.
Awesome. Very cool.
Hopefully the pandemic will be over by then.
Oh, that would be so
so
great.
And I'll
hope
have
so.
slightly better social skills.
All right. Evelyn, do you have anything else before we sign off?
No, I'm very happy to meet you, and your book is great, and I will go home and finish it to see what happens to all these characters, how it gets resolved.
And stock up on ingredients.
Yeah, and I'll make that spinach artichoke dip, which I absolutely adore.
Not
Good.
that I want to go back into any sort of lockdown, but it is good to have a book with a great story and recipes to go along with it. If like even if the weather gets cold, like you don't want to go out, the weather's cold.
Yeah.
Grab the Cookbook Club, make some of those.
You don't have to worry
recipes.
about that in Palm Springs. It's
Oh,
very
that's true.
hot.
It was very hot. We
Yeah.
had a lot of 3-digit heat days, and it didn't bother me a bit. I haven't seen rain since May, and I don't miss it.
We've had very rainy days here.
Yeah, the last 2 days have been, and that is true. We are on the East Coast of New York, and it will start to get that chill.
Yeah,
shortly.
Well, I'll tell you what. I made the Marcella Hazen's. I'm not sure I'm pronouncing her last name right, but I made her bolognese 2 nights ago. And there is a scene in the book where Margot's making it, but it really is one of my favorite staples. And as it gets cold there on the East Coast, I highly recommend you guys look it up.
Is it in the book?
It sounded delicious. It sounded delicious. Thank you so much,
Thank you, Beth.
Thank you, guys. It was great to meet you, and I'm around if you need more. Thank you.
We very well might. So once again, this was Jessica, and my
Evelyn.
librarian co-host was
Evelyn.
And our guest was
Beth.
And read the Cookbook Club and eat a lot of good food.
By Beth Harbison. Here we go.
We're going to close this chapter of Turn the Page, and we'll be in touch.
Thanks, guys.
Bye.
Thank you.
It's time to close this chapter of Turn the Page. Join us for the next episode.